Oh, well, the premise, it follows two real-life people, Delia Balmer and a man she became involved in with John Sweeney, and that went very wrong, and she sustained a very brutalising attack at John's hands, and then we sort of follow her and him through the sort of criminal justice system and how that failed Delia really, and how difficult that process was for her.
And I suppose so, she wasn't taken seriously as well by the criminal justice system, and how they failed her really in a way. But ultimately she triumphs. Delia
is, she is still now very much a free-spirited person. I would describe Delia as she really is an individual and happy in her own skin, and she doesn't feel the need to conform, and nor did she then. And then she meets John. She used to go dancing at a pub in Camden, and she met John Sweeney there because, dashing fella.
And what about John? Where do you find him at the start of the show?
So he's more enigmatic, I think, at the beginning, and purposefully so. I think throughout the story, he sees Delia in a pub. They begin a relationship which lasts for 2 or 3 years. We get the sense that he's been travelling, and has also potentially been inside for some reasons which we're quite sketchy about in the story. And then through the story, we begin to suspect through Delia's eyes that he isn't all that he seems. And the alarm bells start to ring, and then by the end of episode 2, it's confirmed that this guy is not great for her, to say the very least. He then goes on the run, and the story, as Anna rightly said, is about Delia having to overcome all of the things that have been stacked against her in order to give a testimony which puts John away ultimately.
You have to be really diligent, and your opinion or your thoughts and feelings don't come into it when you're playing a real person. You have to diligently just really be as accurate as you possibly can be, because you're telling somebody else's story, so you have to respect that. I didn't meet Delia till later. She visited the set when we were filming. So I just studied her. There's archive of Delia, it's a documentary, and Nick, our writer, had lots of footage of Delia, and you did lots of research, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because yes, Anna's absolutely right. There is a different attitude you have to bring towards it, I think, if they're real people. But you still have to use, for me at least, use your imagination in order to create what this character is for you as well. So it's a funny balance that I still haven't quite got my head around, if I'm being totally honest. So I did a little research. I looked at all of the drawings that he'd done. He'd done lots of drawings and paintings, which is part of how they caught him in the end, or how they brought the case against him. So I studied those and listened to a lot of interviews, and there's a couple of interviews, so I listened to those. And then the rest was just kind of beefing up the scenes that we were in together and using our imagination and intuition and all of the things that you do under normal circumstances to make it as alive and real as possible, That was my approach to it.
It's not a real struggle to get into an emotional mindset when you're tied to a bed in front of the whole of the crew, and nor do you go there, because really what you're thinking is this really happened to an actual person. So as an actor, I try to have as little feeling as possible, or as little ego or self-consciousness as possible, because I'm thinking, I'm just an actor, I'm just paid to be here. This actually did happen to Delia. So I feel removed in a sense. Those scenes were, I felt very lucky to be with Shaun, and we had a lovely crew, wonderful director, brilliant producer, really across the board on this show. Every department was really, everybody handled everything really sensitively, and I was lucky to have Shaun. He was, he's very easy to work with, and I felt like we were
sympathetic perhaps in the way that we did things to get it similarly, I think, you know. So I think likewise we were fortunate to have each other because I think we both work in a very similar way, which is kind of more intuitive. And so you try and keep things as light as possible and then do the work.
And then you're not doing the work.
And then you're not doing the work yet, you know. And I think as well also for your own self-preservation, you have to, as Anna's right, you're there paid to do a job, really. It's not really about us as performers. You're there to just do it. But although that being said, I do remember there was a moment after that particular scene, or maybe in the scene right after, where you are trying to keep it light in between takes and whatnot. And then it sort of hit me. I thought, God, this actually did happen. It was kind of a real gut-wrenching moment. Do you remember her?
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible what happened to her. It's terrible what happened to her. It sounds really cliched, and I cringe at lots of things I say about Delia because she's very, what's the word? There's no flim-flam about Delia. She just says what she feels, and so I feel a bit fraudulent as an actor talking about her. But Delia is a true survivor. She really is, and she never behaved like a victim, which sort of went against her, really. Not being believed at times, or people believing that she could do more than she really could, stretching the boundaries of her mental health. But God, she's stoic. You know, she's always trod her own path, and I think you really get that sense from the show by the end.
Do you think
There's a moment which I think perhaps, well, at least for me in terms of the relationship, there's a scene where we're on the, where I'm on the phone, or Delia's on the phone, and I'm standing over her, and there's a strange mutual. There's a real grey area that I mean, some hideous things have just happened and are about to happen, but I think we were both reaching for something which wasn't just like victim and villain, because as Anna says, she is so much more than that, than a victim. And there's a moment there which is kind of just a very interesting, for me anyways, in terms of their relationship.
I think Delia really shows as a person that you can go through the worst thing in life, and the repercussions of it can be really huge and ripple through your life. But you can still stand up and enjoy your job, your life, your hobbies. Be proud of who you are. Not necessarily see yourself through the lens that others see you through. And go on and thrive. Delia really thrives. She does. She doesn't just, you know, she travels all over the world, and she's a real free spirit. I think she describes herself as a free spirit. She dances and she expresses herself, and she speaks her mind, and Delia it really is a person who will not be trodden down, will she? And, you know, you have to push through, you know, and thrive, not survive. I don't think it's disrespectful to say this. I hope Delia wouldn't find this so. That it is a good story, and that's also why Delia wrote about it herself, made a documentary about it, continued to talk about it, because it is a pretty out there story, what happened to her and who John was. And so, you know, telly lives and dies on its storytelling, and it's a good story. And I think Delia would agree with that. It's pretty shocking and out there. It's terrible what happened to her. But yeah.